William Clair, Lieutenant Commander, U.S. Navy Reserve. Just tell you one air navigation story. This is like, it was like being put in charge of a warehouse, but the warehouse had maps and charts, right? So not much happened. We would, a ship or an air unit would order charts or maps or something else, and we would fill it up and they'd ship it off. Well, things are going along very nicely until there was a thing called the Cuban Missile Crisis, when all of a sudden these ships, which were probably part of the Second Fleet at the time, were told to go in and invade Cuba. There was only one problem. Nobody had any maps of Cuba. So we had the maps of Cuba. So this story could go on forever, but I'll give you the abridged version. So they called and said, we need pallet loads of these charts, or the actual maps of Cuba, and which we had. And they said, no, okay, now, because we're probably going to war tomorrow, we'd like you to get these things down. Now, we were in Norfolk, and the fleet was off Guantanamo in Cuba. So we had to get these maps. So they said, okay, Claire, you're in charge, so you're going to bring these maps. So they said, well, how are we going to get these maps? And I said, oh, we could look at the Massachusetts Air National Guard, or maybe it's a Navy, probably was in Massachusetts, a reserve air unit in Massachusetts has some aircraft, and they're going to carry these maps down. So I said, great. So we showed up with, I remember, of course, it was a Saturday morning. We brought these big pallets over. We loaded them on whatever kind of aircraft it was, and we took off. And we had to land in also at the Naval Air Station in Jacksonville to refuel. And we landed, and all of a sudden the medical people came on board and said, let's see your shot record. And we said, I mean, these guys are from Boston, and they could, look, we don't have any shock records. They said, well, you don't have any shock records. We got to at least give you A, B, and C, because you're not going to leave the United States unless you have these shots. And we were saying, yeah, but there's a war, and we got all the maps. And they said, we don't care. You're going to get the shots. And I remember they brought us over to the hospital, gave us the shots. We came back, and I think we had probably lost a couple hours. So we took off flying south toward Guantanamo, and you can't cross Cuba, you have to sort of go around and approach it from the back. So there were only, probably three, maybe four of the Navy Reserve guys and myself and this load of maps. So we're flying down, and this guy says, you ever been to Cuba? And I said, no. And the guy said, you ever been to Cuba? He said, no. He said, it's this big island down there, and here's the map. So I said, okay. So we fly around, and now it's getting dark, and you have to come in from the south heading north. So Guantanamo was sitting there, and there's a city on either side of the base. And we're going into the landing pattern, and and one guy says, there's Guantanamo, and the other guy says, no, that's the city. There's Guantanamo. And he said, no, I know. You go, this is Guantanamo. I said, well, we got the maps from the war. We're going to possibly land in enemy territory. So they called down to the tower and said, hey, we're flying around here, and they nicely said, but we don't know where you are. So they said, oh, don't worry, and they sent 2 aircraft up to guide us. It was probably a C-47. I'm not sure exactly. I can't remember. But they put 2 other aircraft on either side of us to guide us down. So we landed, and there's a whole other story about trying to get all these maps onto the carriers and distribute everything else. So the end of it, we got rid of the maps, and I went over to the air operations and said, okay, I'd like to go back to the United States on the next available flight. And he said, there aren't any next available flights because we're going to go to war and there's no flights going up, they're all coming down. He said, you're going to have to wait in line. I said, yeah, but I don't, all I got is, a change of underwear and $5. The guy said, that's too bad, Bill. We'll call you. I can't remember how long I stayed. I remember I eventually got a flight to Key West and mentioned Key West, right? But that was my story. Now, if you'll recall, in 1961, the Berlin Wall was being built. And there was a strong possibility that our tours would be extended. But by sheer chance, I had put in for an early release so I could go back to school. I had a fellowship at the University of Wisconsin to start in September, and I requested 3 months early release, which was approved. And by just sheer luck, I zipped out, got out of active duty just before that took place. And I went back to the University of Wisconsin and then stayed with the Navy Reserve off and on for a period of about 10 years.